The city of Harare woke up to a strange quiet on March 31st. But it wasn't peace, it was fear. That silence, that wasn't calm. It was the sound of a government holding its breath, terrified of its own citizens. No vendors yelling 2 tomatoes, 1 bond. No combis honking through intersections. No street kids weaving through the traffic. Just police. Lots and lots of police, lined up like bouncers outside a club nobody wanted to go to. Riot shields polished, batons ready, tear gas cannons loaded. You'd think the city was expecting terrorists, but no. All they were bracing for were ordinary Zimbabweans with signs and voices. Because in Emerson Mnangagwa's Zimbabwe, protesting your poverty is treated like plotting treason. The people began to gather slowly, quietly. At first it was just small groups, scattered figures near Rotten Row, heading toward what used to be called Freedom Square. But freedom doesn't last long under ZANU-PF. They renamed it Robert Mugabe Square in what can only be described as a national insult. A shrine to tyranny right in the heart of the capital. Mugabe may be gone, but the ghost of his regime is still very much alive. Just with a new mask and a different crocodile in charge. The plan was simple. March, gather, speak. But in Zimbabwe, even planning a protest gets you followed, photographed, or disappeared. It wasn't long before the games began. Protesters would appear, and so would the police. A few steps forward, a burst of tear gas, people running, then regrouping, then chanting, then more tear gas, rinse, and repeat. For hours, it went on until well past 3 p.m. Like a marathon of resistance. The people had nothing but voices. The regime had weapons, and still the people didn't leave. Shops were shut tight like coffins. Taxis barely made it into town. The usual chaos of downtown Harare was replaced by a different kind of chaos. State-sponsored tension, enforced silence, and a kind of collective anxiety that only comes when a nation has finally had enough. You could see it in their eyes. People weren't just protesting prices or elections. They were protesting being alive under this system. Protesting what it means to wake up every day and pretend this country is still functioning. But then something shifted. The frustration, the cornering, the endless rounds of hide and seek finally broke the day. Protesters started throwing stones. Not looting, but burning. Just stones. The only weapons they could afford in an economy where even bread is a luxury. Rotten Row became a front line. Not between two armies, but between a terrified government and a determined people. The irony of it all, that the same roads Mugabe's motorcade once cruised on are now covered in rocks thrown by citizens fed up with ZANU-PF's legacy of decay. Meanwhile, the organizers, clearly aware that Mnangagwa's regime plays dirty and doesn't follow its own constitution, urged some people to stay in the city overnight, a move that stunned the regime. It wasn't a flash mob, it was a revolution in slow motion. And the message was loud. We are not going anywhere until Mnangagwa does.
We are tired nema-demonstration yekuti tinouya todemonstrata tobva tadzokera kumba pasina chagadziriswa. Hapana ari kuenda kumba, vari kumalokesheni. Tangai kutochibvondora ikoko. Ezvino zvimapurisa ese amhanyira kutaundi, vari kumalokesheni. Batidzai moto, muvhare marodhi kumalokesheni ikoko, musatyisidzirwe nevarakasha. Muri vanhu varume, mutenderedzai maodhia. Vari kumalokesheni, vamwe vasati vauya zvavo vachiri ikoko. Bvondorai futi ikoko, vashayiwe power. Handi mazvinzisa, vashayiwe power kumalokesheni ikoko, even neusiku. Ngachigare chakatobvondoka. This is just a warning. You are playing with us. This is just a warning. You're gonna see other side of us. Hapana ari kuenda kumba. Hapana ari kuenda kumba.
This isn't hyperbole. This is the reality of living under a system that promised a new dispensation in 2017 and instead delivered hyperinflation, abductions, gold smuggling cartels, and a crumbling health system where nurses earn less than street vendors. What we have is not a government. It's a cartel, wearing suits and hiding behind parliamentary procedure. Mnangagwa came in on the back of tanks, promised to be different, and turned out to be Mugabe 2.0, minus the eloquence and with double the corruption. Outside the country, a very different scene was playing out. In Pretoria, South Africa, Zimbabwean citizens gathered outside the embassy, peaceful, bold, determined. And guess what? The South African police did their jobs. They protected the protesters, escorted them. No batons, no tear gas, just basic constitutional rights in action. The kind of policing Zimbabwe hasn't seen since independence. They even marched all the way to the embassy peacefully, because in normal democracies, a protest is not a threat. It's a thermometer of national health. And then came the comedy. The Zimbabwean ambassador, yes, the same one who lives in luxury funded by taxpayers who can't afford school fees, was briefly interviewed by Sophie Mkwena of the SABC. When asked about the M31 revolution, he denied it. There's nothing happening in Zimbabwe, he claimed, with a straight face. Nothing.
It's what you see in the social media, but social media is not reality. So that's the difference. No, I have nothing more to say. There is nothing happening in Zimbabwe. It's quiet. Everything is normal. And what is on the social media is not the reality. Thank you very much.
Okay. Nothing? Maybe he's been watching Wakanda Forever instead of the news. And just like that, poof, he vanished. No questions taken. No accountability. Just another day at the diplomatic circus. And just like his Harare bosses. Back in Harare, it was revealed that the first person to alert the police about the gathering at the square wasn't some random passerby. No, it was a Varakashifo ED agent. One of Mnangagwa's social media puppets pretending to be a protester. She blended in, then made the call, a political Judas, and this is what they have reduced politics to. A game of deceit, betrayal, and spying on your fellow citizens like it's a Cold War thriller.
So these are the small rock elements. Vanga vachida kuungana panapa pa Robert Mugabe Unit Square. So when I arrived here, and I want a group of people. That's why I'm on a video randaita area. I pretended to be one of them. I convinced them. Ndopa vabashika mazibaba washanduko wachiburuka mota. Vabva vachingamidzwa. Ndikati no guys musatize. Itaya muri kuita. But ndichiva convinced I was recording a video. So immediately ndopa zoya police ne riot. So thank God tinotenda nezvaitika panapa. Now they have dispersed. Vabuda vaenda.
But despite all that, the people held their ground. They faced police, ran from tear gas, dodged beatings, and kept coming back. Because this isn't just about one day. This is about 44 years of broken promises, about a government that has robbed people of their past, strangled their present, and now wants to steal their future too. And the people are saying no, loudly, clearly, over and over again. This was just day one, and already the regime is scrambling, blocking roads, flooding the city with the police, threatening journalists, but none of that is going to stop what has already started. The truth is, when citizens begin to lose their fear, dictators begin to lose their grip. And that's exactly what we are witnessing. The unraveling, the panic, the desperation of a regime that knows the clock is ticking. And here is the kicker. If Mnangagwa and his crew think the people will just get tired and go home, they clearly don't understand the mood of the nation. This is a population that has been to hell and back and is no longer afraid of fire. From unpaid civil servants to unemployed graduates, from broken hospitals to empty shelves, every Zimbabwean has a story, and every story now echoes with the same cry: enough is enough. So wherever you are, inside Zimbabwe or outside, know this: the M31 revolution is not just a date on the calendar. It's a reckoning, a line in the sand, a declaration that people have found their voice again. At this time, they are not whispering. The regime was celebrating the fact that there were no people in the city. But remember, it is the regime that told the people that Monday will be business as usual. It wasn't business as usual. Having no people in a bustling city that is always full of people, vendors and so forth, doing their work, and having that kind of a city empty, vendor shelves abandoned, that is not business as usual. Yes, on the other side, there might not have been masses on the streets to protest, but that doesn't mean it wasn't a success. The people disobeyed the government by staying at home. Schools closed, businesses closed. Trucks from South Africa were not moving because the people said so. Ladies and gentlemen, this is only a start, but the revolution is on. And if you are in Harare, if you are in Bulawayo, Aluta, continue. The Bulawayo demo was more organized. Young people flooded the city singing Into Yenzayo Ngiyayizonda. The organizers have asked the whole country to stay on the streets, and tomorrow is a continuation of the revolution. Hit that subscribe button, because here at Zimwaves TV, we don't just cover the news, we stand with the people making it.
Caramba!